hello, I am gonna be AJ's great girlfriend. Also, he knows about God because someday he's gonna say about what Jesus is. Someday he's gonna talk about what God is, and he's gonna tell you is that because he's gonna know what Bible is for Christmas and stuff. He's gonna know about God because we talked about God, friends and family and teachers. You know, teaching people. Like teaching people is being a weebo. And when I teach this AJ how to be a crazy as young adult like me, and he learned his own life like me because he learned his own young adult life about his own relationship, like his own like me and my girlfriend because I'm always the one who's taking care of him. He was the one who's taking care of me because he was the only one being a young adult like me. And when he called it, it's called being young adults who is gonna be crazy, you know. You know, someday he's gonna say that to me because someday he's going to, you know, and someday he's gonna talk about what God is. He's gonna talk about what Bible came from, and he's gonna tell you what is God came from, because he knows what Jesus came from our family. You know, he knows what that came from because he knows what God is. He knows about Christmas. He knows he loves Christmas because he talked about Christmas all the time. He always talk about God. He always talk about being with me, and he knows what God come from because someday he's gonna say about God, you know, and he's gonna talk about what God came from our lives. Like God's gonna say to him, you might remember what you did together. You might remember what you did to your life. Also, he's gonna know what God come from because he's gonna know what God came from to our family and our, you know, us being together because he knows what relationship are. Because someday he's gonna say it's about God, and he's gonna talk about Bibles. Like he's gonna say there's a relationship that we could have, and I also know about relationship. His relationship is come from me because I was the only one who took care of him, and he took care of me. Also, he was the life that he had this relationship. His relationship is coming from his own woman like me. Because if you know about God, if you're going to know about your family, you know. Also, if you're going to know about what's relationship coming from. Because also you're going to talk about what God came from in your life, you know, came from your sweetheart. And because you know when till the next Valentine comes, it's gonna be his own sweetheart like me. And because you know, because he's gonna know what is relationship, and because his life it came from to me. It's called being men and women who could be together for all this relationship, and he also know about God, and you also know about archery and stuff, you know, because we also know about God, could believe that Jesus Christ, and also you will say something about God, and you know, watch this. because we talked about the Bible, how we always like each other, and we also just know about when we know about being together. It's called being man and women who is going to be together because if you know what Bible is, because you're going to know what you could think up here being with your family. Also, you could talk about how much you love them because when God's going to say to me, like when Grandma died, and Grandma's going to be like, what did you say about God? And us Grandma's going to know what about life are. And she would talk about, there's going to be a good relationship with you and AJ. Could be together forever. Also, you're alive together. And also, he's going to say, you guys have a great relationship. You guys have fun together. And also, you said about God. Because, there's a lot of relationship with us. It's like this, Also, I'm sitting here be dancing weirdo and stuff. Also, because if you know what relationship are, you could just talk about it, whatever you want. I can know what I could talk about in the Bible. And someday, if you had this relationship, it's gonna go like together that you always are. It's because, if I were, people who love being with their family, like me and AJ is gonna be having a great life together, and also he was talking about we've been making crazy life or a crazy boyfriend and girlfriend life because he was talking about his own relationship like me because he's been talking about that, and he also knows what life are. And he was like, I remember when we hung out, we hung out being together having fun here. And he's going to remember about his relationship with me, and he's going to be talking about it every day. And every day when he hung out, he also know what life are, and he also know what God come from me being his girlfriend, because I'm always crazy being crazy girlfriend to him. And what he also do, he laughs at me and think I'm goofy. He also think I'm crazy also, he knows what God come from with Christmas stuff, and Christmas coming up, and we had this relationship that we talked about being together, and he remember if he was thinking about. I remember we drove each other crazy, like being girlfriend and boyfriend, crazy stuff, and because he might remember I was driving him crazy. He might remember I was being a psycho girlfriend to him. And he might remember all that stuff when we're married. And he might be like, well, I might remember what it is come from. Also, he's going to remember. What kind of things we did together. Also, he's going to remember up in his head, because he's going to say, my gosh, I might remember what I did together with you. And usually if you guys had any family or boyfriend and girlfriend stuff, like me and my boyfriend AJ, we had this life about being a weirdo, being goofy, and also we talked about our relationship, and we do that all the time. And because we do that all the time, we talked about everything being together. We talked about being a rainbow, and we also do that every day. And he was talking about, what God came from your family. And also, he's going to talk about why you guys always drove each other crazy in the world. And, because if I were if I weren't Grandma Parker, I'll be like crazy like Grandma Parker. And um, if you ever heard me on Facebook or YouTube talking about stuff, and you know, because I probably always talk about, like, always want to be with AJ, because if he ever heard me on YouTube like now, he's gonna be like, "What are you talking about?" And someday he would heard that, or on YouTube or on Facebook, he would have heard everything about on Facebook all the time, and he would be like, "Oh my God, what is she doing?" And because he knows what God came from his own life, his own relationship, like me, because I'm only one who took good care of AJ and took care of Kiara, and because you know that's how what life are. Someday he's gonna sit there. He's gonna say, "Well, you're talking about me all the time," and he's gonna know when I'm talking about him all the time, because he knows what relationship are. He knows what boyfriend and girlfriend like me, and he also knows about what kind of relationship he is, and he also know what God came from, and he also know what family are. He knows also know about his grandma. He knows about his cousins. He love them, and he told me about his family that he came from in Texas. His grandma, Marsh, his other entire family in the world who is talking to him, and what his favorite Christmas life. What is his favorite Christmas life? He loves to do with his family. He loved to open presents. He also loved to dance his own Christmas music. He also liked to do that. And he also liked to be a Rebo. And he also loved to dance a lot. And he just shake it all up. And when he also is going to say to me is that, because I might remember my life with you. He might remember all of the life he did with me, and he's going to go, "Well, I do remember we hung out. I remember we beat Rebo. I remember we were just being a chicken." And he might remember everything that he hung out with me, because he's going to go, "Yeah, we're both crazy." And this is my jammy stuff I always do when I get ready for bed, I also know what life are, and I also know what relationship are, because when we're boyfriend and girlfriend, usually he loves to hang out with me, because this is AJ's relationship. So he also knows it's about, like, between me and him together, and he knows what belief of God is going to say to him, is that the Christ is going to say to him, like Jesus is going to say, "Well, you had this better life. It's just love to hang out and love being together. Also, you love to be hanging out of Jesus Christ." And what you also can know is that, because he knows what Christ are, and he knows what the Christ are, and he also know what God came from his family, and his grandpa, and his whole family in the world, who is going to talk about the Christ that he had, and he also know what that came from. Also, he also know what life came from. He also know what is everything came from his relationship from me, because he's going to be talking about what kind of life we ever do, and he's going to go, "Well, I might remember what we hung out. We hung out a lot," and he might remember what God says. Actually, he knows where God come from, because he knows what the spirit of his side of him about his grandpa. He might remember his grandpa is watching him, that he had me, because he is probably saying is that I might remember when my grandpa for Christmas used to love hanging out with us and the family, and he might remember all of his whole family hung out with him when he was little, and because he would heard me I said that, because he's gonna heard me I said that in their video or something like that. And he would have said something like, what are you talking about? My family, you're talking about yours, you're talking about everybody in the world who love you. And he's going to talk about what God came from his life. Because he might remember that our relationship, he might remember we hung out, we drove each other crazy, and he also remember what Grandma Parker did with her life. And when Grandma Parker died, she has been married, so is Grandma Fire. And my grandpa William was married for a long time, like AJ's grandpa and grandma. And he also remembered what kind of life that we had. Also, he remembered that this is his life. He also remember it's up here. He also remembered when it came from his head, because he's gonna go, well, I'm the only one who can remember my life with my own girlfriend. And he's gonna know about God, and he's gonna say, guess what? I remember when I hung out with Misty, I was having fun, and he remembered that he was having fun with me, because he's gonna look at me like, what a weirdo you are. And, he's gonna talk about kind of things that I hung out with him, go bowling with him, and drive him crazy all the time. He also drives me crazy when he see me in the video camera on my computer, and he's gonna be like, well, what are you talking about? And he's gonna think what God says. Actually, he remember when I was at JTS with him, he might remember we drove each other crazy, wanted to hang out, want to hug, want to kiss all the time. And he might be like, well, I might remember what we both did. We hung out a lot. And, he's going to be like, well, what are you talking about, crazy woman? And he's going to also talk about his life. He also is going to talk about his relationship from me, because he'll be like, well, I might remember we hung out, and he might remember what we did, because he's going to go, well, I might remember what we did that, because he also might remember that we were being a crazy adult who is a lovable, because you know what God's going to say, because we're a lovable boyfriend and girlfriend for the rest of our life. And, because God's going to be like, well, it sounds like you two were talking about life. But he might remember what we're talking about, because this is between me and him. He talked to Shannon about me a lot, because he's weird that he says that to me about God, because he's going to say something weird about me, about I'm always hanging out with him. He goes, yeah, you're weird too. And, he knows I'm talking to Cheryl about it, and he was talking with Shannon, because he talked to Shannon and I talked to Cheryl, and then he will think that I'm crazy about one of us are driving each other crazy, like he like me and I like him, because he knows what God came from. Because he's going to say about this Bible is between me and him up in, the Spirit, like Grandma Parker is going to say, well, this is how life, how you guys going to get married. This is how life do. This is like between you two, love each other. This is like between you guys, always like to hang out and love to hug and love to kiss all the time. And that's how Grandma would have said to me, this is how life, like I did when I was younger. This is how Grandma's going to say. This is how she was saying right now. This is like, I was young like you guys. I used to be crazy like you guys. And also Grandma would have said something like that when she died. She would have said something up in heaven with the rest of her life. She would have talked about that. Right now she will say, well, I might remember when I hung out with my friends. I used to drive my friends crazy. And she might say that she did that when she was young. And now she had a boyfriend, then had me. And she'd be like, her parents used to love getting along. And she might not remember, because she's old, because she might not remember that, how she hung out with her family, like she missed me and my sisters and my mom, and she was at the heaven and stuff. She might want to think about her heart. Not up here, she might think about her heart, that she cares about her family. That's how she's gonna think about in the heart in heaven. That's what Grandma would have said about heart thing, and also she might be like talking about that every day and talk about Bible. She knows what about life. She also know what Jesus says, because like you two gonna get married. You two gonna have a great boyfriend and girlfriend in life before you guys get married. Also, she's gonna say when you guys get married, you guys are gonna have a great husband and wife thing. Also, Grandma Parker is gonna say that up in heaven right now. And actually, she was having a great family. She did had a great friends before she died, and now she doesn't anymore because now her boyfriend always beat her up, and that's not very nice to her. Before that happened, when she was young, somebody always be mean to her when she was young. That wasn't very nice. Like her husband Henry should be nice. So that was crazy in his life, because my grandpa William, he never do that. I asked Grandma Fire that, and she says, well, my husband never do something like that, like Grandma Parker's life, and kind of like, and I asked that for, something like that. Also we know about our life together. We also know it's between me and AJ. So remember, always gonna care about your life. Thank you.